Welcome to That's Based. Happy Monday. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing away through the end of days. Brought to you by Outlaw Streamers and our friends over at Blood of Tyrants Wines. If you drop on over to drinkbloodofTyrants.com, all my winos out there, drinkbloodofTyrants.com, promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, you'll save 10% off your order at the checkout. They got two types of wine, both red and white, along with the Liquid Freedom energy drink. And if you go to drinkbloodofTyrants.com right now and use the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, you'll save yourself 10% off your order at the checkout. Now, you can... the offer isn't exclusive to right now. You can go right now, you can go 10 minutes from now, you can go 10 weeks from now, and it'll still be the same 10% off. It's drinkbloodofTyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D. Like the title of the show, though, you'll save 10% off your order at the checkout. All right. Normally we do the unsolicited advice segment on Monday mornings, but we've got a lineup of shows already this week. We're probably going to have more than we normally do in a typical week. And rather than adding just one more to it, I thought we would give Mia the day off. We won't do unsolicited advice. We're going to do a recap of the No Kings protest I went to Saturday, June 14th, down in Council Bluffs, Iowa, at the Tom Hannafin River's Edge Park. Now, I have got pictures up all over the That's Based with Caleb Salvatore Facebook page. They're also in the group. If you'd like to join that, we have a little bit of inside jokes and some fun in there. But if you head over to that page, you'll be able to see all the pictures I'm talking about. There's all types of just lunatics, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But I went down there with Matt from Right Cheer. Side note, not a sponsor. I read a lot of news articles. I do. I never thought I would read this much in my life. But given, what we do on the show, I want to stay up to date and educated. I read opinion pieces. I read news articles. Let me tell you right now, nobody's doing a better job locally than Right Cheer. Go follow them on Facebook. Drop them a follow on Facebook. This is just free promo. I don't care. Drop them a follow on Facebook. Go to their website. It's on the Facebook page. Local opinion pieces, by far the best. He's got pictures of the rally, too, and way better than mine. I took mine on a smartphone. He had a camera that's probably worth 5 of my smartphones. But so I went down there with him, and we did not go down there to rile people up. We didn't shoot any man on the street content. We did not want to engage with anybody. That was not the goal. We wanted to go down there with a mission, which was to document the protest and get images and quotes, things we saw, things we heard, that you're not going to see on the mainstream media. The folks that are going to, or the left-wing puff pieces that are going to try to make this seem like it was just a big old hug fest and it was totally peaceful and nobody there was unhinged. And my, oh my, did we come up with content. My, oh my. So we went down there. Mind you, we both dressed, when I say conservatively, I don't mean conservative political. I mean conservative in terms of it's not going to draw attention to us. He had a pretty basic shirt on with just a hat. I had a Limp Bizkit t-shirt on. So it was not, we were not down there with MAGA stuff or anything like that. I want to make that clear. He actually was wearing an NRA hat, but you couldn't see that it said NRA. It was faded and it was not, it did not stick out. It was very bland. But so we were not down there to draw attention to ourselves. We were not down there to rile people up. We just wanted to document. And while we're down there, they're giving a moment of silence for the state senators in Minnesota that got shot that morning, which we'll talk about on the Saturday show. We'll go into detail on that and some of the stuff that's not adding up with the story they've changed about 117 times over there. And they're doing right after they get done saying, the MC, who I know, gets done talking. He doesn't know I was there, though. But he gets done talking, and he says, okay, we're doing, this is a nonviolent protest. If you're carrying a firearm or any other type of weapon, please walk back to your car and put it back. We won't, no questions asked kind of thing. It's just, we don't want to draw negative attention to ourselves, because that's what the organizers of these events understand, that they're losing the public, right? So they're telling their people that are giving speeches, hey, you need to chill. Like, please don't whip them into a frenzy. We don't want violent rhetoric. So right after he gets done talking about no violence, he says, okay, now there were these state senators in Minnesota got shot this morning. And everyone just like audible gasped, like they had just found out right there. They didn't know, which is weird considering most of these people live on the internet. I don't know how they didn't know, but whatever. So the internet or cable news, right? So he says that, and then he asks, can we have a moment of silence for the victims, for the two people that got killed? So yeah, they do their moment of silence, and about 20 seconds in, somebody screams, and I quote, "Off with this fucking head," end quote. In the middle of the moment of silence for the shooting victims, who at the time they thought were on their side. Off with this fucking head. And that really just symbolized that whole rally. It really summed it up pretty well. So we're going around, we're taking pictures, and you see all these 8647 signs, which I love the 8647 because it's just ambiguous enough that they can't get you on a threat, but we all know what it means. Like, they try to play stupid, and it's so disingenuous, right? It's so disingenuous because if you really want the guy iced, which you know they do, if you really want the guy whacked, be a man and just say it. Don't hide behind vague language because you're afraid of getting arrested. How much of a pussy are you? You know, like there's a lady there walking around dressed as the Statue of Liberty with a decapitated, bloody Trump head on a stake. There's pictures of it on the Facebook page. And you guys want to sit here and make these bad faith arguments that 86 just means to get rid of. Well, let's use some common knowledge. Let's use some logic here, some common sense. Let's say, for argument's sake, that 86 simply just does mean, and I quote, get rid of, end quote, which it doesn't. That's a ridiculous thing to suggest. Everyone knows you're making a bad faith argument there. But we'll pretend, for argument's sake, that you're right, that it just means to get rid of him. Well, Donald Trump is term limited. He cannot be reelected. He fucked with some of you guys. He riled you up about a third term. He's acknowledged he's done after this term, right? So you can't get rid of him by voting him out. Let me ask you guys a question. How do you think the lady with the decapitated, bloody Trump head in a paper mache on a stake wants to get rid of him? How do you think? How do you think the lady that yelled, and I quote, "off with this fucking head," would prefer to get rid of him? Any ideas? Something tells me they don't want to go through the legal system to remove him. Something tells me the people that are posting on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter things like, and to think we were just a half inch away from being from saving ourselves from all of this trouble, in reference to the assassination attempt. Something tells me those folks don't want to go the impeachment route. I think that's a safe assumption on this one. So again, they use just vague enough language that they can tiptoe up to the line and maybe dip their toe right across it, but they come back real quick. They don't really cross the line legally in terms of an actual threat, right? So we're walking around, and let me tell you guys, the average age at this fucking place is like 67 and a half years old. It's the hippies are back, right? They're back. And some of them are childless cat ladies, and some of them settle down and they just sit there and let MSNBC broil whatever's left of their brain all day. And they get riled up by, these people are unhinged. This man broke their brains. And it's not even funny. It's actually really sad. These people are in the twilight of their lives, and they have allowed the constant, nonstop mainstream media consumption to ruin it for them. I mean, they should be out with their grandkids. They should be out doing things they enjoy. But they are obsessing over problems that aren't even real problems. Problems they believe to be problems because they've been misinformed. It's actually sad. So you've got there's really three types of people there. There's the geriatrics. There are the morbidly obese fucking behemoths out there that I'm surprised more of them didn't pass out and die because it was like 85, 90 degrees by the time we left. And then you've got the guys that are like 100 pounds soaking wet. So I went in there on a quest to find one person who could bench 225. I did not leave successful. I couldn't find anyone. I think what we're going to do, my brother told me we should do this. We should go on Facebook Marketplace and get like a bench press set up, some real cheap weights, like $100 or so, right? And just start showing up to these protests and telling people, if you can put, fuck 225, you can put 150 up one time, we'll give you $20 and see how many of them can do it. Because I bet you, of the 500 to 1,000 people that were there, I bet you I could count on one hand the amount of people that could put 225 up on a bench press. It's just a side note. Just make that clear. And I would have been one of them, that was there. So you can remove me and like it's even lower. So we're walking around and then there's so it's those are your three demographics. And I'm seeing people that I know that are just massive morbidly obese people post on Facebook that they were at this rally and that they had to tap out after 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, you guys are the ones who are going to fight the Civil War? This is all we hear from the left about, revolution and Trump's a king, blah, 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 blah. We need to fight this Civil War. First off, let's put the fact that you guys get anxiety talking to customer service representatives, not even the customer service representatives. You guys get anxiety talking to the automated phone service when you call a customer service hotline. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about the fact that you guys couldn't stand out in 85-degree weather for 20 minutes without leaving, without having to go sit in the shade. Guys, I was down there running on 4 hours of sleep because I tossed and turned all night. I'm hungover because I was at the College World Series the night before. The only thing I've had to drink is coffee, which I don't know. You don't have to be a medical expert to know that coffee doesn't hydrate you. I stopped and got a gas station coffee on the way. I could have sat out there for 6 hours. I had to go help somebody build a shed afterwards. So I was out in the heat even longer. It wasn't even someone I knew that I helped build a shed. I had been around such faggotry for so long. I saw these dudes that were working on a shed. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I help you, if I join in? I can only be around these pussies for so long that I just need to do something that can maybe push some of the soy out of my system for a little bit. Do you mind if I help you put the roof on the shed? So I was out even long. I could have been out there for 6 hours. I would have been fine. Now, granted, I do 45 minutes a day in the sauna, 30 to 45 minutes, so I get some practice. But these are the people that are going to fight the revolution. Let me tell you, guys, if these folks, the ones that can't sit in the sun for 20 minutes, the ones that, like I said, the folks that get anxiety ordering food at restaurants, if these are the ones that are going to fight the Civil War is going to be over in about 27 minutes. I don't even think we need weapons at the Civil War. I think if you have a hill with a slight incline, half of the enemy is not even going to be able to make it up that hill without us shooting at them. They'll kill over and die because they're so fat and frail and out of shape. That's how easy this would be. These people don't actually want the smoke. They're all talk online. They're a whole lot less hostile off the internet. Most of them, that is. The ones that do get hostile are the ones you got to watch because those are the unstable lunatics that, show up at state senators' houses in the middle of the night pretending to be law enforcement and shoot them because they didn't vote the way they wanted to on an immigration bill. But again, we'll talk about that on Saturday. These are the folks that are going to fight the Civil War. I actually support these protests. Majority of the people there needed the vitamin D and needed the exercise. So I'm a big fan. I think that's what it accomplished. That was their biggest accomplishment of the day, was getting some exercise to some really fat, disgusting slobs. It was the best thing the No Kings rallies did, We did have one guy we encountered. One guy we encountered that was directly confrontational to us. Now, mind you, we were not there causing trouble. We weren't talking shit. We weren't talking even to among ourselves. We weren't talking politics. We were directly undercover. Now, I understand when I go to things like this, I get made easily. I do. Number one, I put myself out there so people, even if they don't know who I am, they've probably seen me, especially if it's local. And it might be like a subconscious thing. There's also the fact that even if they don't know who I am, I stick out like a sore thumb because I look like I have a job, which really singles you out and put you in a really small minority at a place like that. So I wonder who is running the vape shops during that protest. It's a great question. So I stick out at those. So I'm made immediately, right? Dirty looks, whatever. Walking in there by yourself because I met up with my friend there. Also draw some attention to you as well. But I was very non-confrontational. You know, I had a couple people, Limp Bizkit fans, stop, point my shirt out. I let them take a picture of it. Like, it was cool, right? I was friendly to everybody I encountered. I was joking around with some guys. I'm sitting there. I'm like, yeah, my wife just told me not to get arrested today. You know, little does he know, I would have been arrested for probably punching him had I been in trouble in this fictional scenario. But so we're standing there, we're talking, and we're not even talking. We're taking pictures, Matt and I are, of some different things they had going on. And this guy turns around and just starts staring at us. So we finish taking pictures where we're at. We walk away a little bit, and I go to Matt as we're walking away because I always keep an eye on people around me. That's just something I learned. I've got a very paranoid trip when I'm in public. I'm always looking at the door. I don't like to sit with my back to the door. If I see anyone who looks remotely shady, I kind of keep an eye on them. I pay attention to them. If I'm walking at night, car slows down. I get the hand on the waistline a little quick, that kind of stuff. It comes from how I was raised and how I grew up. I'm just always, I guess paranoid's not a good way to look. It's situational awareness is at an all-time high for most people when I'm out in public. So I'm kind of keeping my eye on this guy, and he's turning around just staring at us. Mind you, he's by himself. And I turned to Matt, and I go, that guy was kind of giving me the creeps back there. And he's like, yeah, me too. So I'm like, okay, good. We're on the same page. I'm not just being paranoid here. And next thing I know, the guy starts walking toward us. And I go, great, are we going to get shot? And mind you, I'm not carrying a weapon at this. Neither is he. You know, I'm a firm believer in packing heat everywhere you go. I'm not going to be the guy who brings a gun into a protest or knucks or a knife or anything like that. If I'm in a situation in a hostile environment where I'm outnumbered 1,000 to 1 and my life's in danger, I need to get the fuck out of there. I don't need to use a weapon. I don't need to punch somebody. I need to get out of there, right? Maturity. 5 years ago, I would have been ready to throw down. So the guy starts walking up to us, and he says something. And mind you, he's 30 feet away from me and says something at like a conversational tone. So of course I'm not going to hear him. There's a speaker going. There's music playing. There's winds blowing. We're outside. You don't know anything about sound. And I go, what did you say? Just kind of like that. Now I'm aware that my voice kind of comes off confrontational from time to time. It's never intentional. My wife tells me she likes to talk to people in customer service settings when there's some type of issue because I always cause trouble. And the guy goes, what are you doing here with that Nazi stuff? And I go, excuse me? He goes, the Nazi stuff you're wearing. And I look down my shirt and I go, do you mean Limp Bizkit? I wasn't aware that was a Nazi band. And he goes, no, the thing on your neck. And I look it down and he's pointing at he didn't touch it because if he touched me, then I would have broke his fucking neck because you don't put your fucking hands on me. But he points at my crucifix. I had a crucifix on. I'm not the Jerusalem cross that I'm wearing right now. I have a crucifix that's the size of my pinky nail that I got when I got baptized. And it's got St. Patrick, who's my patron saint, his pendant on it. Both of they're two different things on the same necklace. Both of them are the size of my pinky nail, right? They're not big. They're not in your face. They're certainly not Nazi symbolism. And I go, the crucifix? He goes, oh, yeah, that's Nazis. It's the same thing. I go, it's Catholicism. And he goes, yeah, that's the same thing as Nazis. And like I've told you, with retards like this, their opinion really doesn't matter to me. So I go, okay, I guess I'm a Nazi. And he goes, just making sure you knew. Just give him a thumbs up. And he walks away. And I was like, well, I turned to Matt. I go, I wasn't aware St. Patrick was a Nazi. And he turns back, starts staring at me again. Like the guy, so the first time he came over and talked to us, he's got his hands at his waistline the entire time. Like he's waiting for me to get confrontational with him or something so he can have an excuse to pull whatever the fuck he's got in his pants. Because you know these idiots are bringing weapons to this shit. Most of them have been in mental institutions, so they can't buy a gun, but you know they got knives, you know they got knucks, you know they got pepper spray, whatever, right? Bike chains, all that shit. I'm not going to the hospital today. Mind you, the police are all up at the top of the hill. There's probably undercovers there, but the cops are all up at the top of the hill because they don't want to go down into the belly of the beast unless they have to. I would not put it past the people there to block an ambulance if they felt that it was carrying a quote-unquote fascist. So I'm very, very careful around this guy. He's clearly unstable. You do not escalate things with unstable people who are probably packing heat, especially when there's 1,000 others of a like mindset around them. So he turns back around and he starts walking toward us, and I go, oh, Jesus Christ. And he goes, what did you say? And I said, I wasn't aware St. Patrick was a Nazi. And he goes, oh, yeah, it is. It's the same thing. And I went, okay, have a good day, dude. And he just walks away, and I go, what a fucking retard. And I know he heard that part, and he didn't say anything, because he didn't actually want to, he wasn't actually going to fight both of us, right? He wanted an excuse to pull the weapon out. But I think he realized that we weren't scared of him. So we had that going for us. But and the two of us together would have mobbed him. Again, not a situation I want to be in either way. Not trying to go to jail. Not trying to go to jail or get killed. But I go, what a fucking retard. And he walked away. And so those are the types of unhinged lunatics we were dealing with. Mind you, I think it goes without saying, Christians, Catholics, not the same thing as Nazis. Not even close. I told Matt, I said, he said, do you have a comment on that? I'm going to write that up for the story. I say, yeah, I can't wait to tell all the black Nazis at my church about this tomorrow morning. That's the only thing. They're lunatics, these people. This guy's out there. He's wearing 2 T-shirts, and he's got some sweatpants with the legs pulled up. I don't, just fucking nutcases out there. Very unstable individual. Very, very unstable individual. And it shows the types of people they have at these rallies. And you know he's not the only one who thinks that. He's just the only one who's crazy enough to say it. Side note, this guy's probably 5'8". Again, 160 pounds soaking wet. We're talking, I warm up with more than his weight on the bench press. Not really concerned about him physically, but knowing how crazy these people are and knowing that many of them are carrying weapons despite being told not to, makes you a little uneasy at these rallies. And I don't know if his goal was to try to make us leave or what, but we didn't leave. We were there for another hour or so. And we saw all kinds of fun stuff, all the stuff about, comparing Trump to Hitler and fascism. Side note, the hilarious part about the fascism thing is that these people, they don't even realize this. The closest thing any of them, whether they're 18 or 80 at these rallies, the closest thing in this country to fascism that any of them have ever lived under was in 2020. And it wasn't coming from Washington, D.C. It was coming at their state, city, and local governments. That was the closest thing to fascism that they've lived under. And 99% of them cheered it on. That's the most ironic part about all of this. The closest this country's ever come to fascism was from them. When they were arresting people for walking alone on the beach, when they were shutting down church services, when they were SWAT teaming private businesses that open, when they were calling 911 on people for having Memorial Day barbecues. Far and away the closest to fascism this country's ever been, and it came almost exclusively from the left. Almost exclusively from the left. Now, Trump didn't help because he stood by and let these governors egregiously violate people's civil rights, which I've criticized him for again and again and again and again while it was happening, after it was happening, and to this day when it comes up in conversation. But the fascism came from them in the form of COVID restrictions, in the form of mask mandates, in the form of forcing your kids to take an experimental jab, in the form of bullying you and getting people fired from their jobs if they didn't follow these absurd COVID protocols. I mean, that was where the fascism came from. And every last one of the people at that rally was more than happy to not just sit idly by while it happened, not just cheer it on, but many of them were acting as informants for the state, for the people carrying out the fascism, to help them execute it and to help them crack down on those darn rule breakers. So when I see people talk about resisting fascism is obedience to God, I'm like, you're absolutely correct. It is, which is why I ignored every single COVID protocol that was put into place. Every single COVID protocol. I didn't pay attention to one of them. I didn't wear a mask. None of it. None of it. Guess what? Here, we can do this now. Go ahead and report me, fags. Act like I care. I ran underground comedy shows at private venues that were way over capacity during COVID. I had a headliner at a comedy show that was supposed to be 50% capacity when everything opened up. And I won't tell you what venue it was at because we worked with multiple venues during this time. But I had a headliner at a comedy show at a venue that was supposed to be 50% capacity. And not only was this place over 50% capacity, we were at double the fire code at this point in time. This venue's not... Go ahead and cry about it. I'm not going to tell you who it was. Like I said, we worked with multiple places at this point, many of whom have changed owners. So good luck chasing that down. And because people were so tired of being cooped up in their homes. This was shortly, right when people started to regain some common sense. My headliner at this show had COVID. And it was like day 13, and we said, all right, let's just roll with it. Who fucking cares? We had a conversation. I'm like, do you think so-and-so still has COVID? Scott says, and I quote, who fucking cares? So those of you that tried, you tried your best, but you failed, just like everything else you did in life, to enforce the unconstitutional and blatantly fascist COVID protocol. So yes, fascism has come to this country, and those of you who claim to be anti-fascist actively cheered it on and helped act as enforcers and snitches for the state. I just wanted to remind you guys of that, because I know some of you like to pretend that that 2020 to 2022-ish time period didn't happen. It did. And I'll remind you what authoritarian little psychopaths you acted like until the end of time, until you actually admit you did something wrong, which is my problem with the left. They never admit they did anything wrong. They just don't want to talk, or they just stop talking about these things, like the trans issue, like COVID, like the egg prices. Soon enough, it'll be this, right? Here's what I noticed, though. Here's what I noticed. Because everyone talks, because I saw a lot, we posted these pictures, and I'm sending them to people I know. Look at these crazies. And they're texting me. They're going, Caleb, who is this protest targeted to? Because when you think about what's the point of a protest? What's the point of any of this so-called activism? It's to draw attention to an issue, right? It's to get Joe and Jane Smith that work a 9 to 5 and have 3 or 4 kids, and they don't have time. They go to church and they hang out with their friends. They have barbecues. They watch football and follow in politics and what's going on in the world. Yeah, they might vote for presidential and like mayoral elections, but that's it. The purpose is normally to draw attention from those people to get them on your side when you do this type of activism. That's not what this was, though. They brought out the most unhinged, lunatic, fringe, crazy members of the left, which unfortunately for them is growing. And they put them all in one place, all over the country. They got all the craziest people together. And there's a thing called group polarization, where the group goes toward the mindset of the most extreme person that's there. And they got it's a sociological term, but they got all these people together and they put them in a little fishbowl and they let them mingle. That was the point of this rally. The point of this rally was not to take people who were on the fence and push them over to their side. They don't give a fuck about those people right now. We're not in an election year. They'll worry about them in a year. The purpose of this rally, as I said last Saturday, if you recall, was to get a bunch of people together, take all their craziest members, cast a wide net, and do what I call the shotgun strategy. Now, the shotgun's different from a rifle or a handgun. A handgun fires one round, and if it hits the target, it hits. A shotgun pushes out a whole bunch of BBs. And when you've got 20, 30, 40 BBs flying, All you need is just one of them to hit the target. Now, not to kill it, obviously, but we're just talking target shooting in this example. So it was the shotgun strategy. They wanted to cast a wide net all over the country, put all the craziest people together in the same general vicinity, and see if they can rile up a couple of them to try and find one or two that are maybe stupid enough or crazy enough or both to take the shot. And you know what shot I'm talking about. Let's see if we can rile up our base and get a couple of people, the most fringe extremist lunatics there with nothing to lose. And believe me, there were a lot of people there that didn't look like they had much to lose. And see if we can maybe just convince one or two of them to be stupid enough to try and do what we failed to do twice before the presidential election. That's the point of this. That was what they were trying to do. They were not trying to win over undecided voters. They were trying to rile up the base. And it worked. Because I always tell you guys, we need to look at things from their perspective. We can't just disagree with their opinions if we don't understand how they view the issues, because they view the issues differently than us. To us on the outside, to conservatives, to independents, to libertarians that are watching these insane rallies, we look at that and go, those are fucking lunatics. I want nothing to do with them. We have to understand those rallies weren't for us. We were not the target demographic of those rallies. Those rallies were for them. And their base eats that shit up. They're all about it. That's what they're doing there. They want to convince a couple of crazies to try and do something real fucking stupid. And I hope to God it didn't work. They put their best foot forward, though. They may come out and say nonviolence, but we all know the rhetoric. We all know the rhetoric. When you see Tim Walz say things like we need to bully the shit out of Trump and stuff like that, when they do the 86-47 stuff, when they speak in language, like I said, that's just vague enough. It sits on that legally gray area where they can hide behind free speech, but we all know what they mean. You can't get them in court because you can't prove it, but anyone with eyes knows what they mean, and they'll have plausible deniability, and they'll play stupid and try to gaslight you, but we know what it means. So when one of their lunatic supporters does finally get the balls to do what they all want to do but don't have the balls to do or have far too much to lose, they being the Democrat establishment, they'll be able to put their hands up and go, whoa, 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 you go check the tapes. We never encouraged anybody to do any of this shit. Never, ever. We never did. And the thing about this, another thing, so they had a giant inflatable chicken with hair like Donald Trump. It was a chicken that looked like Trump. Why? I don't know. They're calling him a chicken, I guess. And excuse me, they're all taking pictures in front of this giant inflatable chicken. It was the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. They thought it was so creative. A chicken Trump is the best thing they got. And they wonder why they're losing the culture war. You guys spurg out anytime we use offensive language and make jokes, and that's your version of comedy, and you're wondering why you're losing. You're wondering why all the hot comics, Kill Tony, Shane Gillis, folks like that, they all, maybe they're not politically right-wing, they may be apolitical, but let's be honest, the target demographic of somebody like Tony Hinchcliffe, of somebody like Shane Gillis, of somebody like, even at this point, a Dave Chappelle, leans a little bit away from you guys. They can't figure out why they're losing when they do this shit. Even like a Tim Dillon or a Joe Rogan. Like, we all know who's going to those shows. It's like 70-30. So they all have this giant chicken inflatable of Trump, which I want to see if I can buy it. And my friend told me that she wanted it for her yard. So we're going to try and procure that for her. Maybe we'll do an auction. And we'll get it for them, and they can put it up in their backyard because they have chickens. You know, it's a big thing for them. But what that showed to me, I had this epiphany there. I'm like, they call MAGA and Trump supporters a cult. And don't get me wrong, there are absolutely some Trump supporters who the man could walk into their home and shoot their mother. And they'd be like, well, I had to see what his reasoning was first. Absolutely, there are some Trump supporters that are in a cult. And you find that with any movement. There are hardline members that absolutely refuse to think for themselves. But we've kind of detailed this. I'm not someone who considers himself to be MAGA. In fact, I'm far from it on a lot of issues, despite what some retards may want to claim. MAGA has proven itself specifically over the last couple months on things like Epstein, on things like Trump lightening his load on his tone on deportation of agricultural and hospitality workers. MAGA's turned against Trump a couple of times on things like the spending cuts that they haven't made yet. MAGA has proven to be a living, breathing entity of its own that does think for itself. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes in a couple of years. But as much as they refer to MAGA as a cult, or Trump supporters as being in a cult of personality, what they don't understand is they're the ones in a cult of personality. They really are, if you think about it. All of their opinions, their moods, their political beliefs, everything is centered around one man. And everything these people do, every accusation they make is always a confession. When they tell you you're in a cult surrounding Trump, no, it's them. They're the ones who change their beliefs on a whim if Trump says something that they agreed with 5 minutes ago. Everything they do is centered around Donald Trump. It's like a reverse cult of personality. The man dictates their beliefs. He dictates their actions. He dictates their moods. Whether you know it or not, when I got into when I started converting into Christianity, one of the things I was told was something I had never heard of, which is making a false idol out of things. And you can make a false idol out of anything. You can make a false idol out of your job. You can make a false idol out of your hobby. You can make a false idol out of your wife. But you can also make a false idol out of negative things in the terms that you worship that thing and how much it controls you. You can make a false idol out of alcohol if you're an alcoholic. You can make a false idol out of stressing about what the president's doing. These people, and what do we do with idols, with false idols? We worship them. That's what the Bible tells us. No, do not worship false idols. These people, whether they know it or not, the way Trump affects every aspect of their lives, they're worshiping Donald Trump. Every aspect of their lives is affected by that man. If they find out that a restaurant owner voted for him, they won't eat at that restaurant anymore. If they find out that Home Depot said, we're not going to raise our prices for the time being due to the tariffs to wait for them to figure this situation out, like actually helping their customers, eating losses to help their customers, they boycott Home Depot. Trump can do absolutely no right. And to say that Trump can do absolutely no right and he's never gotten anything right in his life is just as absurd and just as cultish as saying that everything he does is gospel. Everything he touches turns to gold. He can do no wrong. They're the ones in the cult, and they don't even realize it. It's a cult of personality. They worship one man. Says a cult of personality refers to the use of public adoration and flattery to create a heroic and godlike image of a leader. They've done the reverse of that. Their hatred and fear of this man has turned him into a god. They worship at the altar of a man they hate. They're defined by the things and the people they hate. They're incapable of producing an original thought without letting that which they hate influence it. Now, the folks that worship at the altar of Trump and think he's some godlike deity, those are sad individuals. But that's even sadder, to be so controlled, so consumed by someone you don't even like. Think about how unhealthy that is and why it's not a surprise when they say 60+% of liberals in this country admit to being seriously mentally ill. Those are the ones that admit to it. Their brains are broken. by this man. So many of them. He has a spell over them. It's so deranged and it's so unhealthy. This is what happens when you make politics your whole personality. Do you know how much I talk about politics off the air? Not much. If it comes up, I'll talk about it. I like to talk about football. I like to gossip about people. We come on here, we yell in the air. Absolutely. People want to bring it up. I got no problem talking about it off air. I got a whole lot more going on besides that, though. Whole lot more that I can talk about. Whole lot more. A lot more interests, history, things like that. Talk all day about it. Comedy, movies, anything. Sports, especially. This is all these people have. Think about how sad that is. All these people have, their lives have been so driven off the course by, I'm not even going to say by one man, because he didn't do this. They did this to themselves by fixating on him. They have nothing. Healthy people with hobbies and lives and loving families don't behave the way I saw people behave on Saturday. They don't dress up that way. They don't write that type of shit on signs. That's how out of their fucking minds these people are. And that's dangerous. Because I've told you guys for a long time, when I've poo-pooed the idea of a civil war in America, a civil war will not come. And someone, I don't remember who it was, someone made a great point on a Facebook comment. Western civilization will always, whether it's the right or the left, choose comfort over principles. I don't remember who said that. I wish I could credit you, but it was a great comment on the That Space with Caleb Salvatore Facebook group, which you should all join. Shameless promotion. A civil war in this country won't come until people have nothing else to lose. Right now, we are watching a bunch of people voluntarily strip themselves of their community, of their family, of their friends, of their hobbies, all to fixate 100% of their energy hating one man. We may be closer than we're willing to admit. And again, that civil war, it might last like 25 minutes. My question is, how are they going to rile people up post-Trump? Trump ain't going to be here forever, despite what some of you think. These people have put so much energy into Trump. So much energy. So much time into Trump. I'm sorry, I just can't see them being the Democrat establishment, riling these people up and fear-mongering them with J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio the same way they have with Trump. Those guys aren't as brash. They're going to be burnt out. There's a whole lot of factors at play there. There'll be some of them that freak out. I can't see them having the active base the way they do right now 3 years from now. There's no way. Mainly because based on the average age at that rally, half of them are going to be fucking dead in 3 years. Especially at that age, dude. To stress yourself out at that age about stuff that is totally out of your control. We're not talking, there's a repair of my house that I can't afford to fix. That's someone in your control. You can figure out a way to come up with the money or whatever. You're talking about stuff that's totally out of your control, that you stress out about 24/7, consumes your entire day, defines your personality and who you are as a human being. You're asking for a heart attack. You're asking for a stroke. You're just talking cutting off years of your life from wear and tear from stress. And then you've got the younger people, half at least, probably more, are just morbidly obese blobs. That's not good. You're going to die at 40. You better get through the midlife crisis. Go buy that Corvette right now, because you're about halfway done, bro. At 25 years old, the way you're living, out of shape, mentally ill, eating like crap, not taking care of your health physically or mentally, and fixated on something totally out of your control to the point it causes you to have daily mental breakdowns. You're going to die of a fucking heart attack at 46 years old. And I say that not even as a joke, on like a human to human, I'm concerned for your health type of thing. How are they going to rile these people up? A lot of them are going to burn out. Some of them will turn into casual voters. A lot of them are going to burn out. Some of them are going to go, hey, none of the shit you said that was going to happen over the last 4 years happened again. You're full of shit. And they may not vote Republican, but they won't vote. Or they won't be nearly as politically active. It's kind of a catch-22 when it comes to election season, right? Because the more it seems that the Democrats campaign and the more they get their talking points out there, the less people vote for them. Like, because remember when Trump would seem like he was kind of losing to Kamala because he was talking a lot and it was attack, and then they pivoted the campaign strategy with Susie Wiles was a brilliant fucking move on her end. And they stopped going out on the attack against Kamala and they just started playing ads with her words in them. We played a bunch of them on the air. That was when the tide really shifted. When the Democrats speak, they lose voters. And I know that from personal experience. I was not pro-life a couple of years ago. I didn't become pro-life because I was convinced by any pro-life argument. I became pro-life because it became abundantly clear to me that pro-choice had nothing to do with women's health and nothing to do with civil liberties. That was the facade they hid behind. But when Roe got repealed, they made it abundantly clear that it was about being able to fuck whoever they wanted without consequences. They hid behind the 0.01% of cases where it might actually be medically necessary. But the overwhelming majority, you can look the statistics up, were folks that just didn't want to have the kid. I just want to make PowerPoints for $50,000 a year. I want to go to Mexico next summer, that kind of crap. And I was like, I don't know. At that point in my life, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I think a fetus or an unborn baby is a person, but I do think it's fucking barbaric to stop a life from happening just so you can have fun and be a degenerate. And I loved being a degenerate when I was younger, right? But I remember seeing that and like, oh, this is wrong. And the pro-choice people made me pro-life. I became pro-life before I became a Christian. When you let the Democrats talk, they tend to shoot themselves in the foot because they can't help but showing how crazy they are. So when they burn a lot of these activists out that are out there in a couple of years, I think it might actually hurt us. Because we're not going to have these lunatics out there yelling, abolish the police, thinking that because they sit in an echo chamber of only like-minded people, because they're too fragile and sensitive to be around opinions different than their own, that's a popular viewpoint, not realizing that 90 to 95% of the population think, regardless of their political affiliation, race, gender, religion, thinks that's the most asinine thing they've ever heard. They go out there and say it anyway, because they think it's popular, because it's popular among their friend group. And since they have such a ridiculous worldview, they think that their friend group is representative of the whole world, and it's not. Such a juvenile view of the world. So I think we should let them. But I really did learn two things. I had two big takeaways from going to this rally that I hope all of you can share with me. Number one, the moderate wing of the Democrat Party. I'm not talking the establishment. I'm talking the true moderates, because there were calls from activists, there were calls from politicians like Fetterman and others that aren't nearly as insane as a lot of the other Democrats out there. They have lost control of the crazies. In an effort to embrace, they tried to play nice with these people for a long time. They tried to even, in many cases, embrace them, but they've lost control of them. They decided to feed the stray cat that was coming around their porch because they thought what was the worst it could do. Now there's 30 stray cats, and they've made their way into their home, and they're pissing all over the floor and scratching up the walls, and they can't control it anymore. Think about this. Because there were people saying, all these moderate activists and politicians were saying, hey, don't be violent. Don't use violent imagery, violent slogans. Don't say 8647. Don't bring foreign countries' flags. They did all of those things. All of those things. Well, they didn't get violent at this rally, but 3 out of 4. They had the violent imagery, they had the 8647 stuff, and they had plenty of flags from other countries. One guy even had the Mexican flag above the American flag on Flag Day, nonetheless. They've lost control of the crazies. The crazies have consumed the party. Do you remember in 2016 this little political movement called the alt-right? Or even more recently, this movement in like 2021 called QAnon? When's the last time you've heard of either the alt-right or QAnon? You haven't. Because the right didn't play games with them. The mainstream conservative, even people like Donald Trump, didn't want anything to do with the lunatic fringe on their own side. They went away. You're not hearing anymore about, the alt-right, blah, blah, blah. They're gone. And I'm sure there's some idiots that show up, but there's always going to be crazy people. The difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is the Republicans go, you know what? We've got crazy people in our party. That's part of running a political party, is you're going to get some of the extremists. But they don't represent the overwhelming majority of us. We can't control how they vote. We can't control how they register. But we can control the fact that we're not going to let the lunatic fringe hijack the party and control our messaging. The Democrat Party has done the opposite. They have embraced every extremist faction of their party, and they're slowly letting them get into this Game of Thrones style power struggle to see which one comes out on top. The moderate, reasonable Democrats, gone. They might as well jump off the Titanic and get off now while they still got time, right? They're done. The moderate wing of the party doesn't have a chance to win. The lunatic fringe has taken over. It's a matter of what part of the lunatic fringe is going to win. Will it be the communists? Will it be the alphabet activists? Will it be who knows? Who knows? Will it be the illegal immigrants? They've allowed the lunatics to take over, though. Will it be the black nationalists? Right? The Maoists? We don't know. They'll figure it out, though. That's the difference. I remember there were a lot of people trying to tie the alt-right to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. They shut that shit down quick. They didn't let those people have roles in the party. They denounced them. They wanted nothing to do with them. I've long said, if you look at there's far-right extremists and there's far-left extremists. Think about it. You got neo-Nazis, KKK, people like that. When's the last time you've ever heard your average conservative voter go, those KKK guys might have some points? When's the last time you've seen the average Republican? Maybe he's even a little bit further right than the moderate Republicans out there. When's the last time you've seen the average Republican voter go, oh, yeah, those neo-Nazis are just a big part of the party. We're a big tent party. We got to let everybody in. They don't say that. They don't say that. On the flip side, the Democrats have no problem giving the people that want to turn kids trans, or the lunatic communist activists, or the people that say they want to destroy the nuclear family or abolish the police, they have no problem giving those people leadership roles in their party, making them active voices that speak for tens of millions of Democrats all over the country. And they're going to continue to lose their party because of that. So they can sit out there and say this rally was a massive success. I don't know how they measure that. It was a failure. It was a failure in the sense that you established your footing as a political party that will be irrelevant in 15 years. Because this was the passing of the torch over to the lunatic fringe. The other thing I learned, the second takeaway I had, that you all need to listen to more than anything, if you don't take away anything else from this, here's your call to action. And it's not the call to action these lunatics on the other side want. We're seeing a lot of infighting right now. I'm seeing it in group chats I'm in. I'm seeing it in national politics. I'm seeing it on social media, everywhere, citywide. I was engaged in part of that. I played a big role in part of that in a citywide election here recently. And if you'll notice, after my guy lost the primary, while I'm principled, so I wasn't going to endorse the person I spent a lot of time criticizing, I shut up about it. I stopped talking about it. I told people to write me in. We ran a joke campaign. But I didn't spend hours on the air every week attacking that candidate anymore. I had questions for that candidate's campaign that I brought up in conversation with them. I was a little hostile about it, believe it or not, coming from me. But I didn't turn, after my guy got knocked out of the primary, I didn't continue the trajectory of the show, turning it into a nonstop attack ad on that candidate. The big takeaway from this is that while we have our differences, this was a good reminder to me, and anyone who disagrees with me or is questionable about what I'm going to say here in a second should go to one of these rallies. Go to any local Democrat rally, and you'll leave feeling the same way I did. This rally was a great reminder of who the real enemy is. And when I use the word enemy, I mean enemy. I'm not talking about the average person who voted for Kamala Harris, who has different opinions on tax policy than me. I'm talking about the average person that makes up the base of the Democrat Party. That's who the real enemy is. It reminded me that these people are, best case, completely unhinged lunatics, and worst case, pure fucking evil. It's pure evil! While we don't agree on everything, and we fight as conservatives, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody else, we fight about who's more, you're not pro-life enough, you're too pro-Israel, you're anti-Israel, so you're an anti-Semite, well, you're pro-Israel, so you're a Zionist, so we fight about these things all the time. We fight about spending cuts and taxes and stuff like that. What we have to remember is there is a segment of the population out there that doesn't have the balls to say it right now, but they will in a couple of years if you give them time and you keep giving them the energy, that would put every last fucking one of us in a camp if they could get it their way. Hates our existence to its core. It is a movement of people that is rotten beyond the point of redemption that anyone other than Jesus Christ can offer them. And based on what I saw there, those people ain't turning to Jesus anytime soon. That's what we're up against. Not this political Republican Party conservative infighting. That's what we're up against. And everyone, it was a good refresher that while, yes, I do have some issues with some of my friends in the local Republican Party, and I do have some issues with conservatives nationwide, it reminded me who the real enemy was in all of this. And I think all of you need a refresher on that as well. Now, when I say enemy, I don't mean we get violent. I'm not like these lunatics on the other side. But it was a great refresher. And it was a great way to help you keep your eye on the ball. Anyway, that's been our show. I think we've got WTF Wednesdays coming up this Wednesday, so we'll take a break from politics. God knows we all need it. We'll talk fucking, what was I going to say? Oh, it's aliens, UFOs, ghosts, that kind of crap. I'm sure Mia's got some spooky stories for us and whatnot. We've got... we're going to have an interview coming up either this week or next. We're going to see Michael Pickens coming on the show. He's a friend of mine. I go way back with this guy. He is a former libertarian campaign strategist. He's got a new book out, and it's not about politics. It's going to be really interesting. We're going to talk about that and give you guys some links to where you can go get the book if you're interested in it. I think I'm going to buy it because I'm reading more nowadays. I need to get back on my reading train. I was doing really good, and then I stopped. I got too busy with other shit. Summertime rolls around, the yard and grilling take priority over everything else, over the mind, body, and spirit. But, so we'll have him on. It'll either be this week or next week. Try to get the details of that ironed out. We will see you guys on Wednesday for WTF Wednesdays. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse, and stay based.